Hey everybody, Jack here. Time for another Elden Ring trailer analysis. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, I look at Elden Ring lore from the perspective of a Miyazaki fan and also as a George R. R. Martin fan. I have been theorizing and consuming their art for over a decade each, and I try to combine those thoughts together to, understand Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a collaborative process between both of these fantastic artists, and, I think I could bring a unique perspective that, others may not have. If you haven't seen any of my lore or theory videos before, I say such things as Godwyn is a dragon, or half dragon, and Miquella and Melania are some of the oldest demigods, older than their siblings. I also have a video coming out next week that has to do with spaceships, so just know that's who you're dealing with. What we're going to do here is we are going to watch the trailer into 4 sections, and then we're going to react to each section, trying to glean what we're looking at from the visualizations and from that dialogue from each section. So without further ado, we're going to watch the first part.
Peggy 16.
Oh, and since Marika's in this trailer to represent the mothers of the world, we got a Livia Soprano shirt, one of the best moms in media.
Miquella the Kind spoke of the beginning. The seduction and the betrayal. An affair from which gold arose. And so too was Shadow born. What followed?
Okay. So our first line of dialogue is, Miquella the Kind spoke of the beginning, the seduction and the betrayal, an affair from which gold arose, and so too was Shadow born. This is most likely the beginning of the Golden Order. We know from the Mending Rune of Death, of the Prince of Death, or the Mending Rune of the Death Prince, the Golden Order was created by confining Destined Death. And from Enya, we have the Rune of Death goes by 2 names, the other is Destined Death, the forbidden shadow plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation. Looking at the lines, Miquella spoke of the beginning, the seduction and the betrayal, an affair from which gold arose, and so too was Shadow born. So we have the Elden Ring as one full thing. The Destined Death, the forbidden shadow is plucked, Shadow is born, and then gold arose, the Golden Order. What's interesting about Destined Death and the word shadow is if we kind of look at Malekith, I think from his remembrance, we have, Malekith was a shadow-bound beast given to his Empyrean. Marika's sole need of her shadow was a vessel to lock away Destined Death. Even then, she betrayed him. So we're seeing that betrayal line and the birth of our Destined Death being confined. These could all be at different points in time. They might not be exactly related, but we're seeing those words show up multiple times. One of my favorite YouTubers and a friend of mine, Centered Tarnish, he looks at Elden Ring from the perspective of Carl Jung and psychology. And from him, I learned that the shadow is part of the unconscious mind where we hold all of the things about ourselves that we repress, whether because they are evil, socially unacceptable, harmful to others, or detrimental to our own health. So we're kind of might be seeing that here, where in order to get this beautiful, bountiful gold, we need to take out and repress that shadow, that evil. And we kind of see this in this visualization here. From the beginning, we see this birthing symbolism. This reminds me of the godskin swaddling cloth. The Galamide Queen cradles newborn apostles swaddled in this cloth. Obviously we could tell what this is supposed to be, but the metaphor is obviously birth, maybe the birth of the Golden Order. She removes these strands from this. It kind of looks clothy too, like this is stitched or whatever. So whatever this may be, and these strands look like from the first Elden Ring trailer, where we see Marika's hammer shattering or repairing the Elden Ring, we kind of see these strands. So this might be something that is part of the Elden Ring. This might be the previous vessel of the Elden Ring. I don't know. Hard to say. But that, she takes that, walks up the stairs. She holds out here, and wind blows through from the outside, blowing in, and she holds onto them. It reminds me of her crucifixion pose, with instead of her being crucified to the rune arc, she's holding it up above her head. It evokes the same thing, but in a much different way. And then we pull back and we see kind of what looks like the difference between the land of shadow and then the lands between. We get more birthing symbolism here, kind of looking, these are all bodies and corpses and stuff, but it's very fleshy, and it's evoking that, this is the interior of like a birth canal, and then that is the outside world. I think it's this metaphor has probably been around for a long time, but I think I don't remember which Song of Ice and Fire book it is, but they compare, birth to like a battlefield. Like birthing is a woman's battlefield or something like that. How bloody and violent the act of birth is, even though it creates, life is created from it. From the remembrance of the regal ancestor, we get life sprouts from death as it does from birth, such is the way of living. So I think we're kind of seeing that being evoked here, that from death being removed, we get the Golden Order, which is, Golden Order is unending life. We also see kind of what looks like the shape of a tree, which is very interesting, not just for Elden Ring, but in Dark Souls, in the first cutscene, where we find the first flame, it actually goes down into a tree that kind of looks like this. It also kind of looks like a birth canal. Grace kind of has that birthing imagery as well. Kind of looks like a vagina. So does humanity. So this is obviously Bloodborne 2 has all that imagery as well. So this is a theme they've been playing with for a very long time. But going back to this tree, if we were to say that this is in the shadow side of the world, and this is the tree, well, the outside must be Leyndell, and then, must be, possibly. It kind of looks like the Erdtree near the Elden Throne. It has that crack within the front, and it's also kind of slanted. I don't know if this kind of looks like it's slanted too. But then we have all these bodies that build the tree. And that seems like a literal representation of the symbolism for the Erdtree. The Erdtree can't sustain itself without Erdtree burial, the act of burying bodies and roots within the tree. And I think we're seeing that here. This is the product of Erdtree burial. The only way to get this golden world is you need to have this shadow, which is, all the darkness that is hidden. We also kind of I think the skyline is kind of like purpley. It's very red. And it is that, that dichotomy of the gruesome red removed so you can have gold, which shows itself in the Crucible and things that are Crucible aligned. Thinking of Leonian Misbegottens, Crucible Knights, the Fire Giants. These are all things that are red and kind of seen as chaotic. The Crucible Knight gauntlets actually say as such that it is seen as chaotic. Another thing that is red, also primordial gold from the Crucible Knight set says that it's primordial gold is same in color. I'm misremembering it, but we'll throw the item on screen. You can read it and you'll say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. The Newman rune looks like like a hero's rune, like a grace rune. Except it still has that red tint. It has the same red tint as the Crucible Knights. Marika is a Newman. She is long-lived, seldom born. She's an eternal. And it looks like, comparing the Newman rune to a regular rune of grace that you would use to give yourself, rune items or runes to level up and stuff, that the Golden Order, the shadow that was plucked, is the red being removed. From the Smithing Stone 7, we have the war against the thought to have been used to hone weapons of the champions of the war against the giants at the birth of the Erdtree. So we also see that at the birth of the Erdtree, these red beings were slaughtered. They were killed. And I think kind of we're seeing that dualism here. The removal of the red is the birth of gold. They call it a seduction and a betrayal and an affair. So something seduced Marika. Something, the affair is most likely literally meaning what happened, but also an affair as in like cheating. So, something seduced her to remove Destined Death. She was not supposed to. And it is a betrayal. Who's she betraying? Well, since the Newman runes are red and gold, this could have been a betrayal for Newmans at large. Whatever Newman culture existed, the eternal culture. Possibly, not sure. But that's kind of where my head is at. That Marika's betrayal is possibly, in the grand scheme of things, against Newman culture at large. 'Cause she's kind of an outlier. She's also like one of the only Newmans left. There's her and the Black Knife Assassins. And we have the Eternal Cities, but those are filled with Nox. So where did all the Newmans go? Why is it only that Marika is left? Well, maybe we'll find out in the next scene. So let's watch the next scene.
And so too was Shadow born. What followed was a war unseen. One that could never be put to song. A purge without grace or honor. The tyranny of Mesmer's flame.
So we have what followed was a war unseen, one that could never be put to song, a purge without grace or honor, the tyranny of Mesmer's flame. So we know from the first line, spoke at the beginning, the seduction, the betrayal, an affair from which gold arose, and shadow was, and so too was shadow born. What followed was a war unseen. So this war has had to have happened after the creation of the Golden Order, and it also has had to have happened after the Land of Shadow is separated from the greater lands between. After it's hidden, you can see that the veil from the gameplay trailer is present. We know about, I think we all know about veils, Baldachin's Blessing, Mimic Veil, the Concealing Veil, all those items probably thrown on the screen right now. And that is how, some sort of magical entity being able to obscure this land from the rest of the world. So the Golden Order is created. Shadow is plucked from the Elden Ring. Gold arises. And then we have this war. So we're going to go to the first image of this war. Oh, and no one's going to sing a song, and there's no grace or honor. So the first thing we have here is the Wicker Men from the gameplay trailer. What is interesting about the Wicker Men is the faces on them. These faces are evoking the sun. You can't really see it that well in this trailer, but, if we go to the gameplay trailer, there's obviously a sun. They also have these kind of hands above it, holding in the fire. We know that the wicker is made, and I think we know this from the gameplay trailer just because of what Wicker Men are. They're burned, you're fueled with corpses, they're fueled with death. And they also had, in the gameplay trailer, fire giant heads on there. So we're already seeing that these are beings that are against things that are red aligned, that are crucible aligned. They have the sun relief And that makes me think of the Sun Realm. If you watched my Godwin video, we did a whole breakdown of what the Sun Realm is and who the enemies might be. In Farum Azula, you have the Beastmen and the Banished Knights, who are related to the dragons. The Beastmen carry, those who live in Death Beastmen carry the Sun Realm shield. And they obviously worship the dragons. The Banished Knights have dragon ornamentation. They do dragon communion. So they are dragon aligned. The Sun Realm is dragon aligned. And they're fighting the Crucible Knights. So you're seeing Sun Realm and dragons fighting against the Crucible. If we continue on a little bit further, we see these soldiers marching by, and you can kind of see that they have a mask on their face. And they also have this relief on their helmet. This relief kind of looks like the Erdtree door. The relief on the, not really the door, but like the seal or whatever, the broken seal kind of looks like this. I'm not sure what that's supposed to evoke, but it could be representing the sealing of the Shadow lands, the sealing of the Crucible lands, the sealing of Destined Death, the sealing of red from gold. So that separation. And the masks are very important. If you watched my just previous video right before this, where we talked about House Marai and the importance of the masks that House Marai wears, that the Ruler's Mask has, that Tanith wears, and that Jaren wears, it looks like that they may all be related to this kind of, maybe this Land of Shadow, to this Sun Realm. So we're seeing a Sun Realm assumedly invading a Crucible area, and we can kind of, we'll be able to determine that soon. So in this scene, we see Mesmer. He is leading this purge. From the line, we get a purge without grace or honor, the tyranny of Mesmer's flame. Mesmer has snakes and dragon wings and a dragon helmet. The flames that are flying out, and we're going to mute the audio for just a second, those are very serpentine. They move like snakes and they fly through the sky. We see the Wicker Men taking the city. The architecture of the city is very difficult to pin down. I'm not really sure. It kind of reminds me of the Eternal City architecture. So this may be a Newman city. I'm not too sure, but I'm not really sure what this architecture is. But we see that he's dragon related, he's serpent related, and he has these Sun Realm forces invading the city. At least, assumedly, Sun Realm. We can think from the dragons and the Wicker Men. And we can also kind of deduce how the serpent is seen as the Erdtree's betrayer now. The Crucible is the Erdtree in its primordial form, yet for some reason, now they're attacking the Crucible people. We'll see why they're Crucible in a second. But just, trust me on this. We're going to continue. This is the Purge. And then here's our Crucible guy. So this guy right here. From the gameplay trailer and from this trailer, we can see the Omen horns growing from it. They also had Omen feet. They had feet that looks like Morgoth's. And they are fighting against Mesmer. So kind of echoing that, what we see in Farum Azula of Sun Realm and dragons being against Crucible. Godfrey's heavily related to the Crucible Knights, and they are what bring about the age of the Erdtree. So it seems if I'm just gonna spitball a timeline here, we have the lands between. We got the Elden Ring. Then the Crucible comes. If you don't, all right. The Crucible is the beginning of the Erdtree. Now we have the Erdtree. Then the Golden Order is removing Destined Death. The shadow plucked from it, gold arises. And then the Shadowlands is blocked off, and we start purging all this red stuff. So now we're just going to have gold. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. And Mesmer seems to be like he is doing the dirty deed. He's got this shadowy flame. It's got tendrils on it. Let's look at that flame in motion. Yeah, it's kind of like serpentine. Actually, if we turn on the audio, does it hiss? Yeah, I don't know if you heard that. There's kind of like a hiss sound to it too. Kind of like, I don't know if I'm just hearing things. What's also interesting about Mesmer, the color of his eyes. This one I don't really think you could see that well, but this one's kind of blue-ish. Blue is associated with spirits. Think of Ronnie's spirit, the Alabaster Lords, the Regal Ancestor spirit, Torrent, Melina when she phases in and out. So I don't know if this is supposed to be some spirit area, but it seems that, when the war against beings that are red begins, this is what happens. They closed off the area that was all crucibled up and then start purging. It kind of, I don't know, it kind of seems pretty straightforward. It's interesting though, why is it the dragons and the Sun Realm part of it? Because the Sun Realm doesn't exist during the age of Godfrey. Godfrey is Crucible aligned, but then he brings about the age of the Erdtree and the Golden Order, right? Or is it afterwards? It's hard to say. I gotta think about it. But again, this is dirty. It's off the cuff. Trying to think of who's on whose side. We also see Mesmer's, Mesmer's impaling things up in the mountaintops of the giants. So we actually don't have a time frame. So the Erdtree is born. Sorry, this is all over the place. We're thinking out loud here. Thought to have been used, honed against champions, against war against the giants at the birth of the Erdtree. So did the Erdtree not exist yet? But we had a time before the Erdtree. Things were burned in ghost flame. Death was burned in ghost flame before the age of the Erdtree. And you don't need to burn death and ghost flame if people are dying. So is the Golden Order created? And then Golden Order fundamentalists believe in the sun. That's in another video. That's in the Godwin video. So, okay. So Golden Order fundamentalist is Golden Order of the sun. All the sun imagery. It is the Golden Order is created from confining destined death. The Erdtree in primordial form is the crucible. Oh, but you know what? You know what that could mean? The Erdtree is gold. It may have not been considered the Erdtree until the crucible stuff was removed. You see what I'm saying? Like, they could have had this big great tree, and it wasn't the golden Erdtree until it was removed. I talk about this in an upcoming video, in my next video, which I wrote the script and recorded before this one. But it's, the Erdtree probably looked very different to how it does now, based on things like Arteria leaves and primordial form of the Erdtree is red. May have had red leaves and a different colored trunk, similar to Weirwoods in A Song of Ice and Fire. So that's coming up in another video. But that might be what it is. That the birth of the Erdtree may not be, the Erdtree wasn't always there, but it could have still been a big tree. The whole Great Tree Erdtree debate. That could be what that is. So moving forward, we see those Omen guys, the Crucible Omen guys. Oh, that was loud. The Crucible Omen guys being impaled. Mesmer's, he did the dirty work. And then the last scene we get. Here we go. Okay, so this is, as we know, is called the Shadow Tree. And it's veiled. I theorized that these roots or whatever constricting it is death root. I'm not so sure about that now, but I'm still leaning towards, I'm like 70% on death root. That, death root is not just the root of death, it's death of the roots. It's what can kill the Erdtree. This is also in my next video coming up. When death root spreads through the root system, it prevents souls from entering the Erdtree, allowing it to be weakened. It doesn't produce the sap anymore. So if we were going to timeline this, if this is death root, this happens after the Night of the Black Knives. The purge happens after the Night of the Black Knives. Perhaps, when the Land of Shadow is created, after the Golden Order is created, this place is separated. The red is separate, and it's separated off. It's hidden. After some time passed, after Deathroot starts spreading, that's when Mesmer starts purging the city. Because now there is less golden sap and dew being produced. So the people of the city are weakened. There is a valuable time to strike, and it's when the source of their power is taken away. That's a possibility. We also see what looks like the rune arc here, and Marika and the dripping down. Can't say for certain that's Marika. One of my theories, I haven't put it in a video yet, is about the symbolism of tears within Elden Ring. Silver tears, sacred tears. It's the dew and it's the mimic stuff, but it kind of symbolizes sadness, and from that sadness or that suffering, you get power. So, is this like the shadow version of Marika imprisoned in the Erdtree, but instead of being imprisoned in the Erdtree, she's imprisoned outside of the shadow tree, and this is the power dripping down from her. I don't know. It's just a thought. But I'm leaning towards this is Deathroot. This, the shadow tree is what the Erdtree kind of looks like in real life, or what it really looks like. The Erdtree has Mars on. It's a Mard, and it's got cuts in it. We see that in the first story trailer, and we also see it in game. So this could be, what's really going on. This veil coming from this tree could be also veiling what the Erdtree actually looks like. That it really does look like this messed up shadow. You're only seeing the golden side. You don't get to see the dark side of it all. So, yeah. So let's do a quick recap of what I think is going on for the first half of the trailer, because it's kind of like two distinct halves. We get Marika removing something from this birthing symbolism. She removes the gold strands. She walks up. We get the shadow tree-ish probably, and Erdtree burial bodies. We get the shadow world, and we get the lands between. And this is the birth of Golden Order. This is Destined Death removed from the Elden Ring. And then we get some time passes. We get Sunrealm people invading a Eternal City, maybe. An Eternal City that uses, Newman's got that red rune, and so they're using some of that Crucible stuff. And Dragon Snake Man is doing a massacre. And it occurs maybe after the Night of the Black Knives, because this might be Deathroot. So, and that's that. Let's do the second half.
And so kindly Miquella would abandon everything. His golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate.
Fuck, I love that shot. That is so good. I love that so much. When I first watched the trailer, the music and this shot, gave me tears. So let's break down what they say. We get, and so kindly Miquella would abandon everything. His golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate. So we know that we are going to be following in the footsteps of Miquella, and that from the promotional material on the website that, let's just pull that up. Sorry, give me a moment. Very sorry for doing this on the fly. We get the Land of Shadow, a place obscured by the Erdtree. So we have the shadow obscured by gold, where the goddess Marika first set foot. This is where she started. A land purged in an unsung battle set ablaze by Mesmer's flame. We saw that. It was to this land that Miquella departed. So he was in the lands between. He was in the golden place. He divested himself of his flesh, his strength, his lineage, of all things golden. So this is also in an upcoming video. Sorry, I got so many videos upcoming. About how the demigods are born with their great runes. It's too much to explain right now, but, just work with me. Just trust me. Let's say, Marika wants to just slay the Elden Beast, and that's her ultimate goal. And the Elden Ring is the Elden Beast. We know that from Elden Stars, the Beast lands that later became the Elden Ring. She has children Humans are long-lived and seldom born, yet she has a lot of children. She's got, 7 children? Off the top of my head, including the children's Radigan. And we know that Destined Death needed a vessel, and that was Malekith. So wouldn't the Great Runes need a vessel too? In an upcoming video, we'll go through all the sources and the evidence. But let's say that to weaken the Elden Ring, Marika takes a Great Rune out of the Elden Ring and places it in a vessel, and that vessel is a child. We can kind of look at each rune, Great Rune, and how they affect each of the demigods. So the prime example is Morgott. Morgott, when we defeat Morgott, he dies, we get his remembrance and his Great Rune, and then he loses his omen horns and his tail, and he just looks like a pockmarked old man. When we meet Miquella in his cocoon, he has the exact same model as Morgott. I hypothesize, and other people have hypothesized as well, I will link to a video by Minnesotan who comes to the same conclusion I have, that the Rune of the Unborn is Miquella's. So Miquella needs to, from the trailer, abandon everything, his golden flesh, his blinding faith, or his blinding strength, and his fate. He divested himself of his flesh, his strength, and his lineage of all things golden. If the Great Rune is what curses the demigods, for example, Morgott loses his Great Rune, therefore he loses his omen horns. Then if once Miquella takes out the Rune of the Unborn, puts it in a amber egg from Erdtree amber, then his body would grow into, a man. It would grow from, being a boy into a man. And maybe a pockmarked old man like Morgott. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, that Miquella needed to divest himself of his flesh and his body and his Great Rune to be able to get to this place. These are most likely going to be considered Miquella's footsteps, us following him. These are going to be the stand-in for the Sites of Grace. This is probably where we're going to be level up with the new leveling mechanic that's going to be in this. So it also is shaped like Melania's Great Rune and the Rune of the Unborn. It's that circle with the line on the right-hand side. So we see kind of locales following the footsteps. There's not really much interesting stuff here. Then we see Miquella. It literally, we're seeing the footsteps, most likely his spirit. And then the most interesting spot is it says his fate. And then we get the flowers, and we get the purple coloring, and this is very ethereal. So, this must be like Saint Trina. I don't know what to make of Saint Trina. What does that duality look like for Miquella? I hypothesize that Saint Trina is Miquella's way of, one of his ways to influence people by meeting people within their dreams. In A Song of Ice and Fire, there are characters known as green seers and skin changers who can essentially, they can either see through trees to see back in time, to peer into other people's dreams, and they can also, skin changers can take the control of things like beasts and ravens, and Bran, who is very closely related to Miquella, can take over people. Dreams are also really important for A Song of Ice and Fire because many characters will have a prophetic dream and then do something rash or out of character that they wouldn't normally do until they have this prophetic dream. And in George R. Martin's Thousand Worlds series, a sci-fi series, there are a lot of aliens, like hive mind fungal aliens, that send dreams out to people, to humans, to make them do things that they normally wouldn't, like go to war with each other and kill each other. So, I kind of lean towards Saint Trina is like that. It's like a dream manipulator. Maybe it's the spiritual aspect of Miquella. It's really hard to say. Or maybe it's just a fake identity. I don't know if Saint Trina is supposed to be just an identity or a persona. Is it an alter ego? Is it like Radigan where it's a separate part? Who's to say? But, definitely something very ethereal going on here. Something dreamlike. This probably isn't a legitimate physical place like the Land of Shadow is, but maybe this is like that spirit dimension or that dream dimension. And then I think we're going on to the last quarter.
But we are not deterred. We choose to follow. walk with us?
Yes, I will walk it. Okay, so not much to get from this one. We see that there's multiple people following Mikkola's footsteps. From the promotional material, and now Mikkola awaits the return of his promised lord. So this could possibly be all the different cast of characters all following Mikkola to maybe be the potential lord. Who knows why they're all there? We get a knight in white. We get like a guy who looks like a traveling monk. This person back here reminds me of a primeval sorcerer. This guy is wearing a masked face. He has a mask, very similar to like House Marai, Tanith, Official's Mask, Jaren. And he also has kind of gladiatorial armor, which makes me think of Godfrey and Bernal. He may actually be, original resident of the Land of Shadow because of all the masks. This person have a mask too, and we saw them in the gameplay trailer in a field of lilies. So maybe you're a St. Trina follower. This person, I don't know what to make of them. They remind me of Kath's followers from Dark Souls 3. And then this guy reminds me of like wearing Golem armor, but who knows? And so I guess these are all the important NPCs or at least some of them that we're gonna meet along the way. I wonder if they're all tarnished. The second half of this trailer is not really. I can't really glean too much of what's going on here, but that seems like just about it. And then it comes out. What's great about this date is it's a week after my birthday, and on Sunday before this is House of the Dragon Season 2, and then Friday is Shadow of the Erdtree, and that's killer. That's awesome. So yeah, that's about that. Some news. I have 2 videos that just came out, one this week, one last week. One about Godwyn, the Sun Realm, and then this week was about Mikkola, his true age, and House Marai. Next week, we're going to have a video about the Crucible, blood, and spaceships. I'll tell you, I think there's at least 2 spaceships in Elden Ring. That's okay. Wait. Before you think I'm crazy, this is casual. This is light. Before you think I'm crazy, I want you to look at your phone. Whoa, you could see the ring light. I want you to look at your phone, and it's a black screen, oily black screen kind of. And then I want you to look at memory stones in game, and then look at the lore for memory stones, and then look at your phone again. Think about it. All right. There's also a Discord. Join our Discord. There's a lot of great people in there, a lot of great theories. A lot of the things that I said in this video came from people in the Discord who are very creative and very smart. And I would like, if you are very creative and very smart, or if you're not that creative and you're not that smart, join us. It's a fun, friendly place where we get to talk about our wacky ideas. And if your ideas are wackier than mine, then I'll give you the channel, I guess. If you find another spaceship, well, you know who to call. All right. Thank you, everybody. Quick and dirty video. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later.